cute.
Discord SC saying Gatorade on the mic now. That Gatorade is coming to get us.
It's coming to get us, indeed.
We have no chance of ever being sponsored by Gatorade now.
You never know.
Indeed. So now we're going to be loading up on ESV Phoenix Cluster as before. Now we're in the game. Pooh is in the game. Serenity is in the game, and we are ready to have a game.
All right.
And in the upper left-hand corner of ESV Phoenix Cluster, wearing the green trunks as Protoss, he is Complexity Academy's Pooh, and he is the team captain as well.
That's right. In the bottom right-hand corner, representing Team Gravity, playing the last game with pretty aggressive stalkers and able to pull it out, it is Serenity.
Yeah, Pooh has really exhibited some really exceptional play here in the past, and you know, after seeing what Serenity did last game, he just rolled into his opponent's base like a 50,000 ton weight, and he just was, this is what I'm doing, this is what's going to happen, and you know, it didn't help. There were some things that got in the way of his opponent, and you know, trap stalker, etc. But you know, that's all rough business. But we'll see what they can do on this map. It's a pretty large two-player map.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and I think that that's going to allow for some more economic play if these players choose to do so. But, you know, like you said, Pooh has been a really great player, and I think that there's an exact reason why they waited this long to pull him out. I think they're sending him out in this situation as specifically a closer, as they don't want a match going on any further.
Speaking of, let me get the scorecard up here. It's going to be 4-3 now.
As this is game number 7. Oops. There we go.
There we go.
That looks a little better.
So Gateway is coming down, both players same time. 2 assimilators for Pooh, whereas it will be 1 for Serenity.
Serenity doing a little scout to see if there's any shenanigans in his natural. Doesn't see any, so continues to scout along.
You know, definitely not a bad idea, as you know, being this point in the match as a team that's down at match point for the second game in a row. The weight on your shoulders is pretty immense. You know, you're trying to get your team to the finals, and it's all up to you. And it's all up to Serenity, because if he loses, we're out. So, you know, he's got to be extra cautious and check around for those proxies, because that's something that can easily win a game if you don't catch it.
It really is, and I think we've seen Pooh actually do cannon rushes before, which have been effective.
Yeah, you know, I'm surprised. You know, all the very high caliber players in this league, and you really haven't seen that much goofy or terribly crazy play. You know, it's been a lot of pretty straightforward play. A lot of, you know, aggressive play like last time. I wouldn't necessarily consider that cheese. Just consider that a lot of, you know, heavy aggression right out the bat, and you know, both players were kind of going for the same thing, and it just worked out better for one than the other. Well,
that really early game cheese is, you know, it's very risky. It has huge payoff, but it also can really backfire on you. And in situations especially like this, I don't think either team wants to drop a game to something silly.
Yeah. It looks like Pooh, the advantage of getting both of those gas up right away is his mothership core is going to be out right now.
But Serenity is getting a Stargate.
You know, this is definitely a good play. He's got that stalker out to deny any scouting probes now to scout around and see if there's any proxy pylons while he gets an Oracle out of him. Fairly kind of, oh, but a Twilight Council for Pooh, so we're going to see probably Blink. It's more often than not been Blink. We really haven't seen straight up DTs that much.
You know, and it seems like I'd call it like 75% Blink, 25% DTs. But you know, it could be Pooh could just decide to do DTs and do that. If he does, though, the Stargate, I mean, if he gets an Oracle, but it looks like it's going to be a Phoenix.
And here is, oh wow, we haven't seen PvP Phoenix play in quite a while. This is cool. I like that. Definitely something interesting to keep the builds fresh, and it looks like Pooh has a proxy pylon here.
And it is a Dark Shrine.
Oh, wow.
And he immediately is putting down a Stargate as well. So this is going to be...
cool.
Yeah, definitely a cool build.
Stargate and Dark Shrine, so that means he's probably only going to get 1 to 2 DTs just to make sure and keep his opponent honest. But a probe of Pooh does get in here, but this Mothership Core is going to take it out after it built that initial pylon. And Serenity does still have a probe up here, so 2 Phoenixes out. And it's curious to see if he's going to keep building Phoenix. No, he's going for a Robo right now, so maybe he has some spidey sense that there's going to be some DTs coming, or maybe just a transition here from Phoenix. But
And Pooh getting an Oracle now, and the Oracle is actually going to be pretty weak against these Phoenix if they're able to spot it or intersect it.
Pretty weak would definitely be the correct term. The only way it would not be weak is if it did not run into them.
That is true.
But, maybe Serenity, this is definitely reminiscent of the ye old Wings of Liberty. And, just haven't seen it. I say Wings of Liberty because we haven't seen it as much in Heart of the Swarm. Phoenix into just straight up Colossus play. And
well, these Phoenix are moving over and they could potentially intercept. I said that again, but it looks like Pooh is going to be skirting around.
Yeah, just barely.
So both players are going to be able to harass the other.
Dark Templar coming in as well right now for Pooh into the base of Serenity. He's going to go right up for the mineral line, not going to waste any time, but a Observer is coming out for Serenity, so he's only going to have about 5 more seconds to get worker kills here before this comes out, but he is going to get about 5, 6... Oh, he could have got one more whack on a worker, but turned around and whacked with that Zealot. Oh, but the Oracle comes in right afterwards. Oh my gosh, this is a great play by Pooh.
And now those Stalkers are moving forward. The Phoenix are there as well, so he's going to have a hard time getting out of the range of the Phoenix.
Look at that. 13 workers killed by Pooh between the Dark Templar and that Oracle.
And only 2 workers killed so far by Serenity. Despite those 3 Phoenix, he hasn't been super aggressive with them, and Photon Overcharge is down on that Nexus, plus 4 Stalkers there, so... Oh, but is able to snipe off another Oracle. And Blink is now being researched. Those Phoenix are doing some decent damage, not being able to do much economically.
Yeah, so Pooh definitely in a bit of a commanding position right now and expanding. Phoenix can do harassment, but they can't really do much against a base.
They do have a hard time with buildings, so I've heard. There are 5 in that little group now, though, so they could be getting some things done. Oh, but there are a lot of Stalkers here, so you gotta be really careful. They do get some shots off on the hull on that one Phoenix, but it does get out in the nick of time.
Not quite enough time yet for Blink, as it is still coming down, but having been in the base now, seeing the proto boost on that Twilight Council, he's got to know that is in the works. A probe coming out, if he is paying attention to these Phoenix, he could, which he is. He will end up picking up that probe. He does still have a proxy pylon down here, and this is really affecting the build of Serenity, not only from the economic perspective, but the fact that he has to make a bunch of observers now instead of going right towards Colossus.
That is very true. It does slow down those Colossus, which is going to be a boon, but now these Stalkers are trying to get some shots off on those Phoenix. Phoenix numbers are right around 5 again.
Yeah, and Blink is just about to finish, too.
But Serenity getting Immortals out. There is already one on the field. A second one will be joining it shortly.
He's going to get a few probe kills here before the Stalkers blink in, and Photon Overcharge goes on that Nexus as well. So he's baited a couple Photon Overcharges out, and they really haven't been able to do much. So these, he's only lost. Pooh has lost 1350. I think most of that is the Dark Templar. Well, not most of it. That's a lot, but he's lost a Phoenix or 2, but he's still been able to, with good micro, hold on to a lot of these Phoenix.
And Pooh's got great spread on these Stalkers. He's blinking forward, maybe get... Oh, he doesn't move the Phoenix.
He does get one.
Yeah. Not quite rallied far enough away for Serenity. Those Phoenix do take a few more shots. But the Phoenix right now are doing a great job of keeping Pooh back in his base. He's not really able to put out any aggression and is taking some damage, while Serenity is able to get his economy going and able to essentially scout his opponent while doing damage and then getting the the unit composition that he'd like to engage it with.
Essentially these Phoenix are just being super effective. Oh, it does not get the Phoenix. Essentially these Phoenix are just really doing a good job of keeping Pooh in his base, which has been good for Serenity because, as you said, he needs to get his economy going. And all the while he can see what the composition of Pooh is and account for it as well in his build.
That's absolutely right. We do see Templar Archive going down now for Pooh, so we could be seeing some storms here pretty soon. Protoss weapon level to 1, and Charge is going down as well. These Phoenix are gearing up for another push in, though.
I think we're just trying to keep an eye on it at this point. He's definitely got a lot of things here to protect against that. The Stalkers and putting down some cannons. Well, both players putting down cannons. Serenity really knowing that his opponent has a Dark Shrine can't move out unless he has some kind of protection against those counterattacks.
Looks like Pooh's getting Archons with those Templar.
And Serenity also making more Phoenix too, and I think this is a good composition with the Immortals. I mean, because when you think about the Blink, if he comes in with this Phoenix Immortal army, you can really prevent the Stalkers from blinking away, and then get the Immortals under them, and as soon as they drop, they're boom boom dead.
These Phoenix are going to pick off this probe that was trying to do some scouting and put down a pylon. There is still a pylon on the right side of the map for Pooh.
Serenity does have an observer here, but it's not really working out for him. He does see the mothership core moving, but all the other units skirt outside its range, so he is now coming in with the Phoenix to see, oh, the Phoenix is going to be able to snipe this mothership core. This is going to be a big deal for Pooh. That mothership core, a lot of energy. Oh, the Stalkers blink up, but I don't think they're going to even get one Phoenix.
Almost. But not
Man,
quite.
that was a great play by Serenity.
And now these Phoenix are going to be walking over. They do spot that pylon, and they're going to be able to pick off some of these Zealots. And Archon does get warped in and gets one kill. Oh, but the Phoenix aren't moving. That looks like he's just going to... They are out of his vision at the moment.
Looks like Serenity putting down a little mini pylon wall to obstruct the space of his opponent here coming in, which is not a bad idea. Allowing these Immortals to get a nice concave here. But the Zealots warp in and charge in, and Photon Overcharge going down the Nexus.
And that is a scary army by Serenity, who is walking back.
And Pooh is putting down a third base as well. I mean, the thing here is, if Serenity would... I don't think Serenity remembers he's got this probe here. If he could just get something warped in without that mothership core, Pooh can't recall back to deal with it.
That's right. I do think you've forgotten about that, as that probe has been sitting in that spot for the majority of the game.
Probe coming down here from Pooh to see if there's any bases going down. Phoenix is feeling safe enough to move on out. Maybe they'll fly over this probe and remember that it's there. Oh my gosh, a probe. Oh wait, it's mine. There is an observer coming back, so he does see that the army is coming back, so he feels safe now up front. His defense was sufficient, and got lots of pylons out of it too.
And he's putting down cannons there as well, so that front is very well defended, but he does need to take an expansion.
He does still now have cannons in addition to the Stalkers in his base. The mothership core coming out again. Oh, nice blink. These Phoenix are so beefy though. I mean, it really takes some really directed and sustained hits to be able to take them down.
It looks like Serenity does remember about that probe, and it is walking around, putting a pylon down.
Now Colossus out for Serenity as well, so this is getting to be a pretty scary force for him with these Phoenix. I'm surprised the Phoenix don't attack the flying shark.
But Pooh is also getting a robotics bay of his own, so he will be teching towards Colossus as well. However, they will be pretty far behind those of Serenity.
And the upgrades of Serenity are a bit ahead too. +2 is just finishing, as +2 is still a few seconds away for Pooh. Not a huge drastic disadvantage, but I mean, you know, when we consider Wings of Liberty PvP, the first one to get out of Colossus wins when you're doing Colossus Wars. And you know, there's a little bit more to the game now with the Stargate tech, but there's a DT. Oh, DT in Serenity's base, but as I was saying, there's a little bit more in the playbooks for the Protoss these days, so...
And that DT was able to power down the robotics bay, but it did get its... it did get Extended Thermal Lance finished before it went unpowered, but he is now targeting it, and is not going to be able to get it down before he's observed, and the Zealots take it out.
Yeah, he does have his Phoenix just kind of hanging out, or up here at the top, waiting for something to happen. But he does have a couple pylons now with that Phoenix, and a probe moving around from Pooh as well. The Zealots scouting out all the bases, as well as this observer now in a better position to see him move out.
Yeah, it looks like Serenity is actually just kind of poking around the corners, trying to keep an idea of what is going on in his opponent's base, but not losing too much in the process of doing so. And both players getting down their third bases, trying to saturate those while continuing to supply their army.
And Serenity well covered with observers here, as he has 2 on his army. But the number of Archons is certainly growing for Pooh, so in addition to the Colossus, he will have Archons. Serenity making Archons as well, but shoot, I mean, with that number, I'm not sure how effective Storm will be, really, because there's no Void Rays out. Storm is certainly effective against the air.
A few more robotics facilities are going down for Pooh, so it looks like he wants to really ramp up his Colossus production, and potentially Immortals.
So initially, I mean, this game looked like it was kind of a sealed deal when Pooh came in and did so much damage to Serenity, but, you know, Serenity's with his Phoenix were able to keep Pooh pushed back, and now he's...
Oh no, but this Colossus is getting out of position. These Phoenix are going to come forward, and they're going to try and snipe it.
Oh, if he could get that, that would be huge. That's his, okay, he's got 2 Colossus right now, but still going to get a couple lift on these Zealots, but the Stalkers are going to blink in, even though these Phoenix are becoming a little less useful now with the correct micro and actions per minute, they can still be useful.
Pooh warping in another DT to try and walk in. Looks like, oh, I thought that Colossus was going to figure out that there's a pylon down there, but it does not. It's walking straight in and going straight for that robotics bay again.
3 Colossus in production at a time for Pooh, so he really wants to catch up on the Colossus production with taking out this robotics bay in addition to making his own.
And it looks like it's going to get it. And sure enough, it does its duty.
Wow.
And that observer's not, oh, there it is. Okay, so
now the amount of Colossus out is actually in favor of Pooh as soon as one more finishes. Both players have 4, and here comes the big engagement.
as Pooh feels confident in moving forward as he can resupply his Colossus, but his opponent can't. But Serenity gets back into position in time.
Making so many Colossus.
And, you know, one would think that Serenity may think about making more Phoenix with that many Colossus, but I guess with that many Stalkers on the field as well, you kind of want to be careful with that.
The Stalker count, I was just thinking about that. 13 Stalkers for Pooh, 3 for Serenity. I mean, that's kind of a big deal, because as it comes to this late juncture of the game, you really don't want those Stalkers. And even with these Phoenix, I mean, with the number of Colossus and Immortals that Serenity has, I would say that all upgrades being the same, which in this case, looks like 3 is done for both players. No armor upgrades. Interesting. With all upgrades being the same, I think that puts Serenity a bit in the top just due to the number of Stalkers and the number of Immortals that he has. And look at the Zealots, too. That's a ton of Zealots.
So these players are both trying to get deep into the late game here as we're moving into the 23-minute, or 23rd minute. Pooh's taking his 5th base, but he is under threat by Serenity's army that's moving forward into the 4th. There are cannons here, but they're not going to get much done as this base is going to fall. And Pooh deciding that he's not even going to bother trying to engage that.
Yeah, that was pretty smart of him. And he's actually putting this one down in the front, which we'll see what that does. But Serenity is just going to move right on up the side towards the 3rd base.
And Pooh still doesn't want to engage this.
It would be so good for Serenity if he could get his Phoenix around to be able to take out that Mothership Core. And the Mothership Core does sneak out, but here comes the...
And there's the Phoenix they're going towards. Forward, the Time Warp goes down. I mean, so many Colossus here doing huge amounts of damage. Time Warp goes down on the other side. And
the Time Warp on the other side was really holding up the Immortals.
Those Stalkers are trying to take down these Phoenix, and it looks like the last one is about to fall, but nothing's targeting it. And the Colossus number here for Pooh is just outrageous. And they are virtually unanswered.
The Time Warp there by Pooh, the late Time Warp, really helped him out because Serenity warped in a large number of Zealots, and there was nothing to tank those Zealots in the front, so they would have been able to charge right up on the Colossus of Pooh, directing the fire from them as well as the fire from Serenity's Colossus, but the Time Warp went down right in front of the Colossus, slowing the Zealots down so they weren't able to get in there, so that was a really important play.
Serenity now making a warp in of Zealots and a single DT. They're going to try and move forward and deal some economic damage to this base by Pooh.
He does have 2 cannons here.
That's right, so that DT is visible, and the Colossus are there ready to clean that up.
Pooh looking in a really commanding position here.
And Serenity really just trying to take advantage of doing some run-bys, trying to figure out where his opponents is still making bases and trying to snipe any pylons that could be going down.
Serenity does still have that Dark Templar in the back of Pooh's 3rd base, which is not detected as it's out of the range of the cannon, but now another warp in of 3 Zealots and 3 DTs. I'm not sure what this can get done, Gallegation.
Well, you know, I think it's going to continue to keep Pooh's army back at base. It's going to give Serenity some time to build his army back up, and we do see a fleet beacon now coming down from Serenity.
Oh, well, that is certainly not a bad move, but the number of Archons are growing as well. I mean, what he wants to do here is get out Tempest, because Tempests do so much damage to Colossus, so it's really the Heart of the Swarm counter for Colossus. But I think it's going to be way too late for Serenity.
And now these DTs and Zealots are moving into the mineral line of Pooh. They do take out that cannon, so now there's nothing here to defend.
If Pooh loses this base, this could be kind of a big deal, because Serenity is solidly on 4 bases now. So if he gets an additional gateway and can get 4 to 5 Tempests out. Now, I mean, I think Pooh really needs to push this now because Serenity's making more Archons, getting his armor upgrades. Pooh has not gotten any okay, he does have +1 armor upgrade, but if he allows him to get 4 to 5 Tempests out, that could be a real problem for him.
And these Zealot run-bys, and along with DTs, have been really effective here. He's been putting a lot of economic hurt on Pooh and buying a lot of time. So it looks like Pooh is slowly pushing towards his opponent's base. Has a single Zealot going forward to scout a little bit.
Another warping of Zealots headed towards what used to be the third base, just to make sure it stays down. Looks like another cannon is going to be in production. These Zealots will probably get in before it finishes, so if they target that pylon and that cannon, oh, but the mothership board's there as well.
And warping of Zealots of Pooh's own. But the Zealot count is too high, and he's not able to get any to stick down.
This is a really good play by by Serenity. I mean, he's just keeping it. Pooh had to pull his entire army back to deal with these 4 Zealots. And now Serenity has 2 Tempests in production at a time. And he's keeping that going solid. He has, total of 3 on the field now. So, I mean, Serenity is really getting in a position where he can deal with this. And Serenity has a huge Colossus number of his own now.
And Serenity has 4 more Zealots walking straight up into the main now.
The only difference is, there is Kanzu. Now he's going to be able to take out the Robo, so that will hinder the reproduction of Colossus, and Pooh doesn't have the tech to really build much else besides Templar and Colossus.
That is only one of 3 Robos. I think he's just trying to take out whatever structures he can.
Oh, if he was smart, he would be really focusing on his Templar Archives rather than splitting his units between the Cybernetics Core and the Templar Archives, not really getting much damage done on either of them.
And it looks like he just kind of ran them in there and forgot about them, and they do get cleaned up thanks to a Photon Overcharge, a DT, and a cannon.
Where did these Tempests go? Looking at them as he now has 5 Tempests on the field and 2 more attacks. He's going to be up to 7 Tempests here, Gallegation. And this is exactly what Serenity needed. I don't know why Pooh did not push at his advantage, because he's certainly falling behind now.
Yeah, and he's really not making a whole lot. I mean, he's trying to get his economy back on track. He's been definitely on the back foot in terms of all these run-bys, but now he's feeling like he needs to push forward, so his army is heading across.
Here it comes. And he's going to have to he didn't need to get an observer on Pooh's army, but there is the observer of Pooh there himself. He's just trying to get himself positioned well before this engagement.
And now these Tempests are moving forward. They're going to be in great position. The first Colossus dies in the first volley.
Oh, missed accidental fire there. Targeted one of the Archons instead of the Colossus. One-shotting Colossus. Serenity moving himself right into the lead here.
And now Pooh is in really tough position. He blinks a few Stalkers up on the high ground to try and get some shots on. Those are largely ineffective. These Tempests are moving forward.
Oh my god.
Oh, but the Stalkers blink forward. They are going to be able to get 1 down.
It doesn't even matter. There's now 6 Colossus to 0 of Pooh, and Pooh's in a choke here as well.
Yeah, this is not looking good for Pooh. These Colossus are doing huge damage. These Tempests.
GG, well played.
Yeah.
Wow, that was awesome.
Serenity's delay tactics in that game were second to none.
Unbelievable. Every time he kept warping in those Zealots, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's just throwing away Zealots, but then you'd see the whole army of Pooh turn around.
Yeah, and it really kept his economy down. He wasn't really able to re-max his army or really build his army at all, so he kind of stayed stagnant while Serenity was able to add the Tempest, was able to get those Colossus numbers back up, was able to add just the right composition of things, knowing what his opponent was doing.
Yeah, really, that was one of the best PvPs I've seen in a long time, and as soon as he threw down that Fleet Beacon, I'm like, oh man, this is exactly what he needs to do, but it's just too late. He's not going to be able to get out the 5 to 6 Tempest he needs to one-shot Colossus, and sure enough, he found a way to do it.
He certainly did. So we are going